Hello, everyone, and inside today's Locked On Canadiens, we are feeling feisty after a loss to the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida road trip of doom on the horizon. We're going to talk about that and more coming up inside today's show.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 982 of Locked On Canadiens. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. We are, of course, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week. I am your host. I am Scott Matla. I am flying solo tonight. My co-host is unfortunately under the weather, and it's probably for the best that I am currently going to handle this one myself, just because, well, we've got a lot to get into in today's show here, and I thought, we're going to be nice, kind of level-headed here, back from break. Let's kind of see how things go. We're feeling pretty good coming out of the Christmas holiday. And then a very stupid game against the Carolina Hurricanes happened. We're going to get into the recap and why I am currently so frustrated with everything going on. Then we do have a preview of the Florida road trip of doom and why there's potential that this might be the year the Canadiens can turn that around. And because, of course, it is World Junior season, and what that means, it means fans are panicking. Is it time to panic about Lane Hutson and Owen back at World Juniors this year? All that's later on in the show, but let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. We talked yesterday, Laura and myself, about how the Canadiens are rolling into Carolina, a team that they haven't beaten since Joe Hanley and Ryan Johnston were in this lineup, and that was 2017. That was 6 years ago, if I have the date right from that tweet from Habs Links on Twitter. And this game was started out not much different than most games against Carolina, where it is Carolina just wearing the Canadiens down over and over and over again. I didn't think Caden Primo is at fault for this loss here. I think some of the breakdowns are inexcusable from people who should know better in some ways, but Canadiens lose 5-3 in this one. They were down 2-0, got it back to 2-2. And then all of a sudden it's 3-2, and then it's 3-3, 4-3, thanks to something. Get into that. And then it ends 5-3 with an empty net hat trick for Andrei Svechnikov there. I look at the scoreline and I go, you know what? They fought hard, and they did play a lot better after the first period. And yes, Carolina played last night, and yes, they're playing a goalie with an .854 save percentage. But this is a game that the Canadiens usually throw away and never get back into at all. And I really liked a lot of what I saw from this team battling back in this game. It's frustrating because I think that they could have very easily gotten both points in this game, won this game in regulation. It was there for the taking. Mitchell Stevens gets second goal in 2 games there. Really nice backhander off some good work by Jesse Olonen deep in the offensive zone. Josh Anderson scores a breakaway goal in this one, which is wild. And the biggest thing is, and I'm not one of those people that likes to go, well, more people should talk about this if it was this star player or this star player. But Mike Matheson took a pass in his skates, kicked it to himself in stride in the offensive zone, circles the net, and tucks in a wraparound, all at top speed. That was the second goal of this game, and it is impressive. I can think of a handful of forwards who might be able to do that in the NHL, let alone defensemen. None of them play for the Montreal Canadiens except for Mike Matheson, apparently. His goal there was amazing. Does not make up for some of the mental, the brain farts going on up in his head tonight there. His pairing with David Savard was a little rough around the edges at some point. And when Matheson has an off game, the Canadiens defense has an off game, because as he goes, so does this defense there. Scored a really nice goal, obviously, to make up for it. And I thought he had some good shifts, but every now and then, just between the ears, bad things happen. And part of that also, Justin Barron continues to be just an anomaly in that one game. He looks like a surefire bet. One of the goals, Jesper Fast was all alone in front of net, completely alone. Caden Gooley and Justin Barron are down deep. The Canadiens forwards are up high. Carolina's playing 2-1-2. They have two guys down low, one guy in the middle, their defenseman up high there, and the Habs didn't know what to do. Behind the net, Barron is below the goal line. He passes it to Caden Gooley and then stays there. Obviously, potentially expecting a wraparound pass, but he wasn't expecting the timing on it. Goes past him, ends up going right to the front of the net where somebody should be occupying space and nobody is. Jesper Fast could have stopped, set up a table, breaded and fried chicken, made Raising Cane sauce there, and eaten it by the time somebody got there to cover him. And Caden Primo doesn't have a chance when you leave someone that wide open at the NHL level in front of you there. This breaks Caden Primo's, streak on the road of his road wins. I'm actually curious to see what it brought his goaltending stats down to, but I think across the board, I'm not super upset with how tonight's game went. They haven't counted his game here yet against Carolina, so he's still at a 902, but that's fine in and of itself. I'm not super disappointed in the team overall for the most part. I bring Kovacevic in for Barron next game, and I'd tell Yoel Armia to get lost at this point. I don't see what he brings to the lineup, and it's his late penalty that put Carolina back on a power play that ended up being a problem, taking away some of that time for the Canadiens to try and get back into this game. And it's because it doesn't look like he's skating at all. His line with Gallagher and Dvorak got stuck in the defensive zone. And when that happens, it is like watching from the never-ending story, watching that horse just die in the mud, because you know what's coming, a penalty or a goal against. There's no in between, and Armia took a penalty. It doesn't look like he's skating hard a lot of the time. It doesn't look like the effort is there, and I don't care. Stick him in Laval. If he wants to go home, let him go home. I'd rather someone who's hungry be in this lineup and playing. And once Raphael Harvey-Pinard is back, I'm assuming that is going to be him. And if it's not, then I have a lot more questions to ask. I'm over it. He's a vet not earning his spot in the lineup there. And I know Emil Heineman just went back down to Laval and scored a goal tonight too, which is, great, even in a loss there. But I'm over it. I'm over the Yoel Armia thing. I don't want to do it anymore. The big problem I have with this game is that late in the game, Juraj Slafkovsky's in the offensive zone. He doesn't really have his head down. He's reaching just a bit for a puck who's there, and Stefan Nason steps up, chicken wing is out, drives up and into the head of Juraj Slafkovsky. There's, I think, 3.5, 4 minutes left at this point in the game. He's someone on their top line, and they're looking for goals there, and he's been playing very well at generating chances and whatnot. Not only was there not a penalty, the officials didn't review and take a look at this at all, and Slafkovsky was pulled by trainers and the concussion spotters after that hit because he was down on the ice. And my thought is, what are we doing here? Even on the replay, it's very clear that there is an elbow coming up at some point in here, and it hits Slafkovsky in the head, and we're just not doing anything about it. And then just across the board in this game, it's inconsistent again. And I tweeted about this after the Wild game. I'm tired of having to talk about officials in games here. But when you're making an impact that is tied to your job, you're not doing your job properly. I don't know what else I can say. I'm so sick of watching things happen. The AHL level wasn't great tonight, but at least they have an excuse. They're training refs and trying to learn and get them to the next level. The NHL is supposed to be the best. You had Jaden Struble in the first period get blatantly high-sticked 6 feet from a ref. You had another official confer with the linesman, and they went, yeah, guess I didn't see anything. It must have been the wind. And I can feel my brain just melting out of my ears watching this. It's crap. And I don't mean the sport itself isn't. The sport itself is the most skillful and entertaining it's ever been. The officiating in the NHL is crap, and it is ruining what should be a good product. And thankfully, it seems like Juraj Slafkovsky should be okay, but that's also Josh Anderson talking about his teammate there. So fingers crossed, because coming up next for the Canadiens is the Florida road trip of doom. They always do this at the end of December in the wintertime, and it is always a pretty bad time for the most part. However, I think this year might be a little bit different. We're going to dive into why that might be coming up in our next segment. But first, today's show is sponsored by the folks at AG1, and it is the winter time. You need all the nutrients you can get in the morning, and sometimes you don't want to take a dozen different pills or supplements or anything like that. That's why I take AG1 in the morning. I just take a scoop in my first glass of water, and it gives me everything I need to get started on the day. It gives me a boost for my energy, immune system support with all those nasty things going around out there. And it makes it so much easier than trying to remember what pills or what supplements or vitamins I need to take on any given day. It's so simple. And if pro athletes can do this, they use it to take care of their bodies. You can do the same thing and help optimize your whole body health. And if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then you need to try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL network for 75 high quality ingredients that will give you the boost you need first thing in the morning. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at LO_Canadiens. You can follow me at Scott Matla on Twitter. My co-host is at The Active Stick. She is just out for the day, not feeling well there, as you know, the holiday season winds to an end here. For the Canadiens, they are coming off this game in Carolina where close, but not quite. Not the end of the world for a team that is still in the midst of their rebuild and are trying to kind of get their feet settled in on everything. And they're getting closer and closer and closer. Up next is this team actually different? Because they play the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning. Martin St. Louis has already said that Jake Allen and Samuel Montembeault will split the starts there. They play Florida on Saturday at 7 p.m. and they play the Lightning Sunday at 7 p.m. And I believe, these are away games, so they are down in Florida there, obviously on the road trip. Then they go to Dallas on Tuesday, January 2nd, after the new year starts. I gotta say, I think the opportunity is there for the Canadiens to potentially exercise some demons a little bit. And I'm looking at it. Florida's very good. Florida's 20, 12, and 2, 42 points on the season. Second in the Atlantic Division, 4 points behind Boston, 2 points ahead of Tampa Bay, or Toronto, my apologies. Tampa Bay is fourth with 39 points, 17, 14, and 5. Probably the roughest they've looked in a while. They did just get Andrei Vasilevsky back, 6-4 in their last 10. The Canadiens are in sixth, 15, 14, and 5, 35 points, 5, 3, and 2 in their last 10 games. 8, 5, and 3 away from home. Not bad. I don't know if Florida's going to be that game. The biggest thing with Florida, and it always comes down to this, is please don't be stupid. And I know that that's asking potentially a lot of, the Montreal Canadiens here to not be stupid in a game against the Florida Panthers. But if you start letting it get out of control, they're going to bite you. The minute that Matthew Tkachuk knows he can get under your skin, any of those guys out there, they're a dangerous team. Their power play is sitting 20th in the NHL, just barely ahead of the Canadiens, which is, not a feat worth, talking about. But their penalty kill is 8th in the NHL, 83%. The Canadiens is not. They are 29th. The biggest thing with all these Florida games is that when Florida gets on the power play, they just have something that absolutely torches the Canadiens every time. We saw it last year in that 9-5 game. Montreal can't stay out of the box. Florida scores. Montreal is the box. Florida scores. If this is going to be like the Carolina game, they can lose. That is fine. Can you keep composure? Can you keep pace with a team that has given you a lot of fits in the last couple seasons here? And This year's team seems to be a little bit more, I don't want to say, even keeled, like they're okay with just taking penalties, but you don't have Jack Eye in this game. He's still down in Laval, and he's probably going to be down there through this weekend as they work through a 3-3 weekend as well. And keep the fuses low. Matthew Tkachuk's going to be Matthew Tkachuk, and we know that that's annoying and frustrating. What strikes me is that Tampa Bay is there for the taking. And now I acknowledge back-to-back game, very likely Jake Allen starting in that game. And we know that he is always, if he's always due at the start of that game where he has a real rough start, where he lets in 2 or 3 softies or 2 softies. They battle back, but it's not enough because they were down, a little bit. They get down too much early on. But Tampa is a team that hasn't looked like the Tampa of old. Their power play's elite, which again, stay out of the box and you're going to be fine. If you can't do that, then you have a problem. If the Canadiens can play disciplined, even a little bit, they're going to be in so much better shape against this. Andrei Vasilevsky hasn't quite returned to being God himself in net there. The opportunity is there for Montreal, like they have in some of these other series, to rewrite what the rivalry looks like here. And I could be wrong. I could very easily be wrong. I am wrong a lot on this podcast. I've been doing it for 980 plus episodes at this point. My thought is that this is a team that is defying what they were supposed to be this year. Terrible. Are they great? No. Are they not the worst team in the league? Yes. Can they take some of that and apply it to this upcoming rivalry here? The Dallas game, I'm going to chalk off because I've seen Dallas games go 2 ways. The Canadiens somehow win a thrilling shootout or they get blown out. And I don't know what to tell you on that one. Then they play Buffalo after that, back home in Montreal, and Buffalo is struggling big time. The Canadiens have managed to embarrass them twice this season in different ways. Going to be a feisty game, but focusing on that Florida road trip there. This is a season about rewriting the expectations. They did well in California. 2 out of 3 games won in California. Not a thing they often do. Good. Western Canada is up in the air. They got to go back. They got to play the Oilers. They got to play the Flames again at some point. Played Vegas pretty well, even in a loss there out west. Arizona was Arizona, as it always is. Can they continue to kind of rewrite their story here? And I think that's the biggest thing for this Canadiens team is if they can do it with pride. Can you be the team you need to be here? We know that this is a Canadiens team that has struggled with discipline, and sometimes the officiating has not helped. If Slafkovsky's back, I think he's going to be fired up after that Carolina game. Again, he's creating chances, he's doing things. Andrew Berkshire pointed out he's found a move that he knows works for him and he likes, so he continues to go to it. He cuts through the middle there. I'm excited to see what he can do going into this rivalry series with a new chip on his shoulder here. And as the team continues to get healthier, we shouldn't be too far off from Raphael Harvey-Pinard being back, I believe. I know Alex Newhook is still a month or 2 away from that, but I'm hoping they can rewrite this. Play with that pride there. I want to see if the Canadiens from 2023, where they've been feisty, not always great, but they've been in most of the games they play. They haven't rolled over and died. We'll take this loss to Carolina as a learning point and then turn that switch on. And against Florida and against Tampa Bay there, 2 teams who have bullied them, given them fits, and are for some of the Habs on this team here, Caulfield, Suzuki, Josh Anderson, Brendan Gallagher, Jake Allen. No, David Savard wasn't on that team, but some of these other guys who were on that team went to the Cup final. Tampa Bay is the team that stopped you from getting Carey Price and Shea Weber a cup. That's got to mean a little bit of something to you. And we've seen it in other years where they've come out and they've played Tampa tough, and then Tampa's skill just wins out. Let's see if they bring that. We're not going to let them beat us on skill alone. They got to outwork us. They got to do everything. I want to see the fans of these other 2 teams being like, wow, we were probably lucky to get out of there with at least a point or 2 points, if that, I'm very interested to see what Canadiens team shows up on Saturday against Florida there, and it's going to be ugly. It's probably going to be very stupid, and I personally, for the first time in a while, can't wait. What I can wait for is the World Junior Panic. We're on day 4 of the tournament, 3 of the tournament this week. And yes, the panic is setting in. We're going to talk about the Habs prospects and more coming up next. But first, as I said off the top of the show, we are brought to you by Sleeper today. It's almost the halfway point of the season, Habs fan. And like I've talked about, the Habs are slightly overperforming, but are exactly where we want them to be. We are so close to seeing, I think, a Juraj Slafkovsky breakout, and Cole Caulfield starting to pile up the points with that. And regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper's our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick, a handful of players to do more or less than their sleeper projections. Is McDavid going to stay red hot? Is Ovechkin finally going to heat up? Is Nathan McKinnon going to continue to make the Senators cry? All you have to do is beat the sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, or more in any given game. And to win 100 times your bet on sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. That's it. 100 times your money for playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail those picks. All you got to do is use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Some terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. Make sure you see Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. We're going into our final segment here, and this is one that I dread doing every year because I don't like telling people how to feel, but I also kind of want to put things into a contrast for a lot of folks. We are on day 3 of the World Juniors Tournament. By the time you're listening to this, it'll be day 4. The U.S. and Canada have played one dominant game each and one kind of so-so game each. Canada against Finland didn't look good. Obviously played really well the next day. And, the U.S. struggled against Norway, came out and blew out the Swiss. The number one thing I'm seeing right now is Lane Hutson and, Owen Beck. Their numbers aren't great. Are we worried about that? We should be panicking. Why aren't they dominating? Owen Beck's the only returning member of Team Canada. Lane Hutson's back again, and he's setting all these records in college. He has the same amount of assists as Jacob Fowler, who is a goalie, which won. Jacob Fowler got his first World Juniors win on Thursday, which congratulations, Jacob. Many, many more ahead for you, my friend. I look at this and we do this every year. World Juniors is not a be all end all for prospects. It is I don't even want to call it like a depth test or something in there. I can't think of the name off the top of my head because it is late and I apologize for that. It's just a small sample size. It is a 1.5 to 2 week sample size for players where they're playing with mostly new teammates in a potentially new system in a best on best tournament. This is not what you're seeing every week in, week out in whatever league they are in. And Lauren Kelly of Elite Prospects tweeted something earlier. Owen Beck only has, I don't think he has any points at this tournament so far. Since he left Peterborough is 4-12 and have given up 9 goals in the game twice. If that doesn't tell you the role that he was playing there and how much he's bolstering that team, and you're only looking at his Team Canada points where he's playing on a stacked team and is mainly being their defensive center, I don't know what to tell you on that. Lane Hutson doesn't have a ton of points, but the U.S. put up a ton of goals today. You know why? He's probably not playing as many minutes because there are other defensemen on the team who are very good and had great games. Including Zeev Boom, who was phenomenal against, and yes, I know it's Switzerland. Yes, I know that, but I'm not ready to panic about things like this yet because we've seen it before. Like, remember, Ryan Poehling was a World Juniors MVP and everyone thought, oh, maybe he's going to hit that next level. And then he was an AHL player and is now a 4th line player on most NHL teams that he is on. And that's fine. Jordan Harris didn't put up a ton of points at the World Juniors when he was playing for Team USA, and he's a regular everyday defenseman in the NHL now, which is great. Caulfield didn't always put up a ton of points at World Juniors. He's a top 6 elite sniper in the NHL. It's not the be-all, end-all, and I understand that people want to see Lane Hutson putting up points. He looks a little bit off, and I'm wondering if he's playing with pressure on him to impress at this tournament. He did okay last year in his first year there. He wasn't really trusted a ton. He's coming in this year and is supposed to be one of those guys. He's supposed to be one of the guys on Team USA. He's wearing that A on his chest. He's part of that fantastic U.S. development program that's come through guys like Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard and Will Smith and Oliver Moore, Cutter Gauthier, Jimmy Snuggerud, etc., all on this team, and Lane Hutson is there as well. They all came through that program. He's got to keep pace with guys who are very good on that offensive side. They were first-round picks for the most part. I think all of them, except for Hutson, were first-round picks. And yeah, Hutson probably should have been a first-round pick, but he was small. I don't want to panic about it. I am happy to have a discussion that is like, he's, kind of making poor reads on this, or he's doing this. It isn't like him. That I am happy to do. I am happy to break down where I think the flaws are right now in the games that he's playing. I am not ready to be like, maybe he's not going to be as good as we thought because of 2 games so far at the 2024 World Juniors. We are far past that point. He's got a fully dominant NCAA season coming off that U.S. development program season and is also right now involved in another top of the line NCAA season. Owen Beck might be settling into more of what he's likely to be, which is a bottom 6 defensive heavy center there with some small scoring upside. We called him Philip Deneau light or Shane Wright light when it was his draft year. And at the same time, maybe he'll be better than that. Who knows? But I'm not going to write off his ceiling based on World Juniors, where Macklin Celebrini was playing on their 4th line yesterday, which maybe was punishment. I don't know. He ended up with a 5-point game. You're not throwing out defensive centers for minutes. You're just kind of rolling lines out there and letting guys play a little bit at that point. I think it's too early to worry about any of these guys here. It's just, we kind of did it with Slafkovsky a little bit before he found a line there. And maybe we're doing it a little bit now that he's on one. I know recency bias is hard because we look at things and go, oh man, he should be better than that. Or why isn't he being better than that? I'm not ready to pull the plug and be like, oh man, this is terrible. They got to fix it. And they made the wrong move here. They shouldn't sign Lane. No, I want everyone with me. Deep breath out. World Juniors is a nice little measuring stick to see maybe where they are against their peers, but it is not the be-all, end-all. We've seen what Lane Hutson can do at the NCAA level this year. We've seen what Owen Beck can do. I'm not worried about it too much right now. I want people to kind of, I will happily, understand that, oh, maybe he isn't playing as well as he should be. Fine. Valid. I think he can be better too, especially when you're putting up points, when you're scoring goals like the U.S. were today against Switzerland. I get that, but I am not ready to go full panic mode and be like, he's going to be a bust. No. Everything we've seen, we know that there's more than what he's showing at this tournament right now. It's not the end of the world. Deep breaths, everyone. We'll reassess next week. Got another slate of games there. We've got the Canadiens this weekend. We got 2 more Rocket games, one on Friday, one on Saturday. Habs on Saturday, Sunday. World Juniors. Potentially both of my football teams being eliminated from playoff contention in the next couple weeks here, so that's fun. We will check in with you on Monday. We will do 3 up and 3 down. We will bring back the mailbag next week when my co-host is feeling a little bit better. Until then, follow us on Twitter at @LO_Canadiens. You can follow me at Scott Matla. Follow Laura the Active Stick. You can find us wherever you get your daily podcasts on Google, Apple, or Spotify. Or if you're watching this on YouTube.com, tell all your friends. We'd love to have you around. Subscribe. We got plenty of fun stuff coming up. But until then, we'll see you all next time.